Seasons that I want to talk to you about are the seasons to do with your life. Whether you feel it or not, whether you recognize it or not, you are in a season, and that season has a purpose. That season has a reason. And understanding the season you're in can drastically change your life. Right. What's up, Facebook? Hey, if you're watching this, watching the replay, remember to hashtag replay. I'm just going to give it a few minutes just for people to roll in and then begin. Be great to know where you're tuning in from. So if you're on here, man, let me know. We're going to start soon. Hello. What's up, Margot, Danielle? Good afternoon. Let me know in the comments how you doing. How are things going? If you're watching the replay, why don't you let me know? How are things going? How is your life? What's going on? What's going on? How is your life? How would you describe where you're at right now? Danielle, eating cake, drinking coffee is always a good time. Yes, it is. We're going to start soon, but I'd love to hear from you. How are you? If you were to describe your life in a sentence or two, how are you doing? Let me know. I am really interested. You're feeling on fire right now. Great. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? Finished exercising. Congratulations. Well done. Let me know. I'd love to know, how's your life going? My life is accelerating rapidly, but it's great. Awesome. Recognizing the season of acceleration. Very cool. I am super happy with my life right now. Awesome. Very cool. I'd love to just get a sentence on you recognizing what's happening in your life, which is super important, you know? Cool. So just as you're typing that, let's kick off making room for people even when I want to focus on my own stuff. Yeah. I have this awkward feeling that I can't describe every end of the month. Interesting. All right. Well, let us go there. I always start these sessions with this slide. So if you haven't seen any of my older sessions, I did one last week and the week before on assignments. I did one on the power of being alone. Today we're talking about seasons and cycles, just because the more you can recognize the season you're in, the cycle you're in, the more you're going to enjoy your life, the more fulfilled you're going to be, and actually the faster you are going to go through them. You know, I talk about the cycles where we go from glory to glory, faith to faith, strength to strength, going from one cycle to another cycle. Life is made up of seasons and cycles, and it's important to recognize them because you can put your energy, your resources, your time, you can put everything into the season you're in and get more out of it than fighting the season you're in. So we're going to talk about that. But we always start here, right? There is a minority that are not just hearers, but they're doers. They're not just people that talk about it. They are people that walk in it. They're not just people that like to explain and make it sound like they know what's up, but they have no fruit in their life. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the minority few who will actually move, actually develop fruit, actually see things happen in their life. And for that, we have to be willing to tell the truth. If you're not willing to tell the truth, you are probably deceived, right? The book of James says if you can't take action, if you're not a doer, you're deceiving yourself. You're deceiving yourself when you're not a doer, when you're just a hearer. So me being in the online space, I post things, I read people's posts, people post things on my posts, and I see comments, and everyone can appear like they're doing it. There are people that can appear like, oh yeah, I'm doing it, I'm moving it. And they can throw scripture around and they can throw ideas around. But at the end of the day, are you moving? Is there fruit in your life? And so I start by asking you that, are you willing to be the minority? Because it is always the minority that are willing to go places that the majority will not. You know, and the majority can make it sound good, look good, appear good, but actually have no good fruit. So are you that minority? That's my question I start with, okay? And do you tell yourself the truth? All right, so seasons. There are so many different seasons. And obviously this session, we can only go as deep as, 20, 30 minutes allows. So if you want to go deeper, you can jump into one of our coaching sessions, our coaching program. But there are different seasons, just like in the natural, there are different seasons, and the natural is a type and shadow of the spirit. There are different seasons in the spirit, and we all have different seasons in our lives, and every season has a purpose, right? Genesis 8:22 talks about seed time and harvest. There's a time to sow, there is a time to allow for things to happen and develop and grow, and then there is a time to reap, a time for a harvest. And that same scripture talks about how there is summer, winter, autumn, all these seasons, as long as the earth remains, will not cease, right? There is a season for everything. Every season has a purpose. Every season is there to develop, to direct, to consolidate. Every season comes with an agenda, with a purpose. And understanding the season you're in can drastically change your life. Understanding the season you're in can radically change your life. Right? Like, and you think about the natural, you think about summer, and then you think about the peak of winter, peak of summer, peak of winter. Imagine living like it's summer when it's really the peak of winter, and it's cold and it's dark and the days are short, right? Winter has its own purpose, but imagine living like it's summer, like it's the peak of summer, but really it's the peak of winter. You would be fighting against so many things that if you understood your season, those same things would be giving you momentum. Understanding the season of your life can make the difference between facing resistance that you don't need to have, right? Facing opposition, facing the challenge. Like, it's much harder to walk up a hill when it's raining like crazy, when the wind is blowing into your face, right? When maybe there's hail coming in the middle of winter. It's much harder on a wet floor, wet ground, in the dark. It's much harder to walk up a hill when it's like that than when it is sunny and not a cloud in the sky, perfect temperature. And even though the hill still has a challenge, it's much easier than when there's rain coming sideways. I don't know about where you live, but in New Zealand, it can rain sideways. In New Zealand, it can rain like it's coming down and coming back up, right up your nose, right? New Zealand is gifted with the weather. But you can see what I'm trying to say here. It's much easier when you cooperate with your season. And knowing and understanding the seasons of life are very, very important. You know, Jesus talked about the seasons, and then he talked about the timeline of God and the seasons in the timeline of God, and how just like we can recognize the seasons in the natural, we should be able to recognize the season in the spirit, right? And if we go into the macro, the bigger picture, there is a season we are in as a body. There is a season we are in as the world, as the whole globe put together, right? There's a season for everything. And so I'm talking about your personal season. So if you were to guess what season you were in, what would you say? And I'd love for you to put that in the comments. What season are you in? I'd love to know. So recognizing your season can change the game. And that's my conversation this morning, is learning how to flow, learning how to move with your seasons can change the game, because in your season, there is a purpose, there is a benefit, there is a reason, there is a gift, if you want to call it. There's a reward in every season. There is an achievement. There is something that you get, that you become, that you have in every season. And if you're able to do that season after season after season after season, you can imagine the momentum you will build. When life builds momentum, you start picking up pace. And what you did last season, so last summer, what you did last summer, because you are flowing with the seasons, this summer you will increase on. What you did last winter, because you flowed and submitted to the season and you gave into the season, this winter you have momentum. And then you imagine doing that 1 year and then 2 years and then 3 years and 5 years of momentum, it becomes compounding. You're not just adding at the rate of one or an extra benefit. You're now moving at a speed that's beyond just common logic, right? It's beyond just 1 plus 1 is 2. You're now compounding. And this is the power of understanding the season you're in. So I'll make my deeper point soon, but I hope you're understanding that right now you are in a season, whether you like it or not, whether you feel it or not, whether you recognize it or not, you are in a season. And that season has a purpose. That season has a reason. Whether you appreciate it or not, whether I appreciate it or not, right now, it's winter outside my house. Whether I like it or not, whether I'm going to look outside or not, whether I'm going to go outside and engage the weather or not, the season is here. And this is a big part of, some people think that if I just stay in my house, then there is no winter. No, there is winter. Winter is not dependent on you. Winter's here. Are you with me? And so you could have a season in your life and have no idea because you've hid from it, or you're in denial and you want to stay in summer when it's really winter. But the seasons have moved on. And I have watched people hold on to the summer while now it's winter, or hold on to the winter while it's summer and harvest time. And the season has changed, but they didn't move. They didn't move to the pattern. They didn't let go to let in. They didn't say goodbye to say hello. Moving with seasons has power. Okay. Some of you recognize the season you're in, production season of building, creating, great. Season of connection, relationships plus action, great. What is the season you are in? I would love for you to put it on here. And recognizing your season is the first most important thing, right? So what are these different seasons we're talking about? Now, obviously, I'm not just talking about the weather outside, like I'm using that as an example, but the seasons that I want to talk to you about are the seasons to do with your life. They're to do with your life. And so the more you can think about what I'm saying, not just listen, right? So if you're going to spend time listening anyway, you might as well engage what I'm saying, right? Different seasons for you are like your relationships. Relationships have seasons. There are very few relationships in your life that are going all the way. All relationships have a purpose, and all relationships have seasons. There are seasons. You're going to have some that are there for a season and then are gone. You're going to have some that are there for a few seasons and then are gone. You're going to have some that are cyclical. They come in seasons. They are your summer harvest friends, or they're your winter dark gloom friends, but it's seasonal. They come and then they go. They come and then they go. In understanding the relationship seasons, right? Like when you look at getting married, you look at the development of a child. There is a time, a season where the relationships with, say, mom and dad are like, oh, you're mom and dad. You're like a boss in a way, right? Mom and dads are bosses when you're young. As you grow up, they give you more autonomy. They give you more space to make your decisions and grow. And then they become like mentors and friends. And now your mom and your dad are mentors and friends, not just boss, not just, mom, right? It evolves. There's seasons for it. Your siblings, right? They go from being your best friends in some ways to you start exploring because you know them differently, because every season affects your relationships. Romantically, there is a season where you desire a relationship, but you're not in one, which is a very important season. Those that skip that season, like if you're someone that's just always wanted a relationship from 13, 14, 15, romantic one, usually between that age, you desire a romantic relationship a lot purely because of what's happening in your house. Your upbringing affects how you view relationships. So you desire it for different reasons. And at that age, if you've never grown into an adult knowing how to be alone, then the rest of your life carries that pattern where you just need a relationship. You need a person. You need them, a romantic relationship. If you haven't harnessed the season of being alone, the season of knowing what you carry, what you bring to a relationship, you're more than likely to jump into a relationship where you're willing to put yourself down a little bit to get what you think you need, and you don't really ever know what you bring to that relationship in its fullness. You'll have some clues what you want. So the seasons of your relationships, there's a season of being alone, there is a season of desiring connection, and then there is a season of getting that connection and building a romantic relationship or a tribe or a friendship, whatever. There are seasons in your life around relationships. So right now you have seasons going on in your relationships, and they're all different, right? Sometimes I meet people and they're in a very growth orientated season, right? Like it's a time for them to become everything they were born to be. And as a coach, I end up in their life usually in that season. And usually with relationships, everyone will have 1 or 2 or 3 relationships that they need to say goodbye to, or they need to pause, because they're on such a journey. If they don't say goodbye or pause, they will short circuit their growth, their journey, and the frustration in the relationship can cause them to burn bridges or say things they didn't need to say, do things they didn't need to do, because they didn't recognize the season. When I came to God in 2008, I walked into a season of being disconnected from my family, because my family couldn't understand that I would love Jesus like that. It was weird for them that I would go to a prayer meeting and that my whole lifestyle changed, and my Saturday night changed, and my Sunday morning changed. And it was too weird for them. And I had a disconnection with my family. And that was the season for me to do that. I see a lot of people that are like, I'm just bringing my family. Because you didn't recognize seasons, you weren't able to go into your next phase to then bring your family into that season. And so my first 2 years became a season of pursuing God, the things of God, and learning, understanding, becoming. And 2 years in, suddenly my whole family started to come into the kingdom. And now I got my family back. Maybe not even back, but for the first time, we went deeper in God. And so I had a season of separation, which led to a season of integration in my family. We became tighter than ever before. Right? So I'm giving you some examples here. So you have right now a season in your relationships, whether you realize it or not. And so there is a season for building and laying down and creating relationships. And then there is a season for being alone, right? Recognize that relationships, important, very important. So there's one example. Then you got seasons for your work, how you, what you do on the planet. So when I say work, I don't mean a job, but for some of you, your work might be your job at the moment, right? So your job is where somebody pays you to do something, and you get it done and you get compensated for that. But your work is what you were created to do, what you were divinely designed to do on this planet, what you were born to do. Everybody has work. We were all created to work. But when I say work, I don't mean the way the world has taught us. Work is you exploring, engaging, expressing your divine expression, whatever God has created you to do and to be on the planet, right? And so you have seasons for work. There were different seasons that train you and build you and make you into what God is preparing you for and what God has for you. So what season are you in with your work? That's my second question. Remember, I'm a coach. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a counselor necessarily. I'm a coach. So I'm asking you questions that I'm hoping you're writing down at home and you're answering for yourself. That is how you get the most out of these sessions, right? So my first question was, what season are you in your relationships? Can you recognize what's changing? And then what season are you in your work? Can you recognize? Have you ever even jumped into the season of work that God opened for you? So some people in this time, they are quitting their job. Their work is changing. Their season is changing. They're going from, I show up and I work hourly and I get paid hourly. I get compensated hourly. And they're moving into, actually, I brought a product, or I bring a service, or I'm starting a business, or I'm starting a nonprofit, but I'm bringing a value now to the community, to society, to the world, and I'm getting compensated differently from it. There are seasons. Very important for you to recognize what's your season in your work right now. In 2010, I got married, and Kirsten and I had an amazing amazing wedding, amazing first year, where financially for our work, her work was humming, my work was humming, and we got married. And so now we were double humming, right? And it was great. And then in the second year, we started to see like the work that she had, the gym that she was helping run kind of went down a bad path and shut down. And the sales that I was doing started to go down. And we came into a season where our work was changing, was shifting. Now looking back, I can see what God was doing within me. But at that time, I had no clue. And I remember freaking out about my bills. And so I came into a season of learning how God works, right? Learning how God works. Now, Christianity turns everything into, oh, it's a test. And if you do well, you will earn these things. And maybe that's a subject to talk about another time. But in this season, I had to acknowledge it was time for me to leave my old job and move into a new way of working. And so in the transition, and let me go here a little bit, transitioning in your seasons, which is massive. In that transition, everything in my heart got revealed. All my fears, what I really believe about God, what I really believe about me, everything got revealed, right? And we come back to what I started this thing with, telling the truth. I know most people do not do this. They don't tell the truth. They don't accept if they've made a mistake. Like they're scared to accept that they made a mistake. They're scared to see like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe I should have gone and I didn't go, or whatever it is, telling the truth. So in that moment, as I left my sales job, right, I come to this place where I'm having to tell the truth. And the truth for me was I didn't believe that God provides. I know you guys have never been through that kind of stuff, but I didn't believe that God provides. And suddenly I get launched into a season where God is like, I want to show you that I provide. And I remember at that time, I would say things to God like, you don't need to test me in finances, right? Like we don't need to go on that subject because obviously I trust you. And obviously I was revealing that I didn't trust him, right? So the transition, it was really, really hard. And it was hard because I had a paradigm of who God was and he was changing that. So if you're in a transition, how many of you are in a transition? Just write in the comments that you're in a transition. That'd be awesome. Let me know in the chat box. But let me say something here. There are a lot of people who think that they're in a transition and they're forever in a transition. You know, people like that, they're always in a transition. And these are actually people that don't know how to go from one cycle to another cycle, from one season to another season. So they always feel like they're in a transition. They always feel like they're in spring. Like, oh, it's coming, summer's coming, harvest is coming, but it never comes. Or they always feel like they're in autumn, like, oh, it's getting bad, and they're always stuck in limbo. Limbo. Let me say something. Transition is temporary. Transition is temporary. Transition is not a destination. And you might need to write this down for yourself because I've watched people get lost in transition. Like lost in translation, they got lost in transition. So transition is temporary. Transition is not a destination. Transition has a time stamp and it has a time limit because it's taking you to your next season. But people don't always move from season to season, cycle to cycle. So transition, right? You can find your safety in transition because now you don't have to own anything. You don't have to accept anything. You don't have to take responsibility for anything. Transition is one easy way to say and to be like, oh, everything's great. And actually, you're not just willing to take the next step and let go of your old step, right? Transition is so powerful when it's understood, and it can be so damaging when it's not. When transition is understood, you understand these things like it's temporary, it's not a destination. I am moving, I am going through. Transition is not a to, it's a going through, right? So you understand that this is serving a purpose of propelling me forward. I am moving forward. Stagnancy and transition are not the same. So here's a way that you can check if you've just been stagnant or you are actually in transit, is to look at the last 6 to 12 months of your life and see, have I made significant moves? Can I see a seasonal shift in the last 6 to 12 months? Can I see something change? Maybe it's how you viewed finances and how much finances you have right now. Maybe it's the relationships, right? But transition. And I can talk about that even here. Like, I'll go into lifestyle and energy requirements soon, but can you look back and see movement? If you can see movement, then there's a good chance you are actually in transition. But if you can't see movement and you're just the same, the last 6 months have been the same, and I don't mean movement like, oh, I went to work today and came back. I mean actual movement, like changes in your season. If you can't see them, there's a good chance that you're just stagnant. You're not in transition. So you want to be able to see, am I in transition or am I just stagnant? And I like to call it transition because then I don't have to take ownership or responsibility, right? So I end up going through this transition, and I remember freaking out around my work and my money and how am I going to live and how is God going to provide for me. And there was a day where I was driving on the motorway and I was listening to a sermon from my pastor at that time, and I had listened to the same sermon maybe between 30 and 50 times, right? Yep, the same sermon. It was a CD. Yeah, we're going back in time. It was not actually that long ago, but anyway, I'm listening to the CD and he starts talking about the faithfulness of God, right? That CD was called God is Faithful. And I remember breaking down on the motorway. I had to pull over and I pulled into this car park. I got out of the car and I pledged my allegiance to God as I came into a new season. You know, and all I mean by that is I rededicated my whole life to him. I rededicated my heart to him. I came back to that place. I wouldn't even say came back. I went deeper into the place of I trust you. I trust you. I know we're good. I know you got me. I am learning that you are faithful. Because every season and every transition has a reason and a purpose. And in that transition, what was revealed was my lack of faith, my lack of trust. And by the end of that transition, there was a jump to where I would now learn how to trust, learn that he is good, not theoretically, but experientially. When I watch people comment and talk about things and put stories on and you can see very clearly those that know him as a theory and those that know him experientially. Those that know him as a scripture they heard and they know and they learned, and those that know him as a scripture they became. It's very different, right? And Christ, the living word, wants to be the living word in you. So in that time, at the end of that transition of, man, I don't trust God, to, man, I'm going to learn to trust God, I end up jumping into becoming a personal trainer, right? New space. I had studied this stuff before, but it was a new space of me now going into a gym and learning how to get my clients. And it was a new season of learning the purpose of that transition. It was like it was walking it out, learning that, oh, this is how you walk with God as somebody who doesn't have a guaranteed income. You know, so my whole life, at least since 2008, I've never known my income on a Thursday, right? Thursday is payday in New Zealand. So that's why I use that. But I've never known my income. I started to learn, and momentum started to build on trusting God. And at the beginning, my first season cycle of this, I'm trusting God for $100 sale as a cable TV guy, right? And as I go through my next cycle, now I'm trusting God for a $60 an hour client in the gym. And as I go through cycles and cycles, you know, now I'm at a point where I'm running a six-figure business, right? So it's come to that point, seasons building on each other and compounding. All right, so I spent a little bit extra time on there, but I hope you understand there's a season. What is your work season right now? What is your work season right now? And if you're in a transition, where is he taking you? Don't camp in a transition, right? Because that's one of the fastest ways for you to shut down your cycles. Okay, and lifestyle, different seasons of lifestyle, right? So there was a time where God was training me to become a doer. Before I came to God, I was so happy just relaxing and doing nothing. I lived according to my feelings, right? YOLO, you only live once, right? You guys might remember that. That was my life's motto. So I never thought about tomorrow. I never thought about next year. I lived and I didn't have to do stuff all the time. So in the early years of my walking with God, in terms of my lifestyle, I became a doer. I learned how to do. I learned how to execute. And this is another thing, like, I meet a lot of believers who are very good at the entertainment. So let me talk about it this way, okay? All your action that you take, your expansion, can come under entertainment. It can come under execution and efficiency, okay? Entertainment, execution, efficiency. Entertainment is you're entertaining the ideas. You're dreaming. You're thinking, what could be? Wow, I could do this business, this retreat. I could travel the world. I could do this with God. Whatever, you're entertaining the ideas. But then from there, you have to move into execution. I am now going to execute. I had this idea of a book. Did you execute that book? Right? Most people don't come into the execution phase. Once you come into the execution where you're like, yeah, I wrote that book. Yeah, I started that podcast. Yeah, I'm taking action. I'm moving. Then you come into efficiency. Is what you're doing working? Can it work better? Is there a next step? Right? So we got entertainment, execution, efficiency. Learning how to move through this is very important. So I was a big doer. I became a big doer. And as I became a doer, God started moving me into a season now of learning how to be in a healthy way. So your lifestyle has a season right now. Maybe you're someone that doesn't do anything. And this might be the season where you just got to do. You got to move. You got to move. You got to start taking action. Become an action taker, right? Because he's balancing you out. But maybe you're someone that's just always been doing, moving. And God now is like, you need to learn how to sit, honey. You need to learn how to be. You need to learn how to sit. You need to learn how to harness the power of being one with Christ, of the union, right? Different seasons, and they all have different energy requirements. Now, whenever I say energy, people usually think I'm talking about like physical energy. And yeah, that is a part of it. But there's energy going into everything. So on one level, you have physical energy where you're doing stuff. On another level, you have mental energy where you are planning and you are thinking. And that actually takes up a lot more energy than people realize. So I meet people that are always tired, but physically they're not doing much, but they're tired because they're always thinking. They don't know how to relax in their thinking. So they're thinking heavy duty. And so much energy is going into thinking about things that they have no control over, and they're not even called to do anything about it. So today in 2022, a lot of people are thinking about the world's problems and issues going on, and this person's issue and that person's issue, and waste so much energy on the stuff that has nothing to do with their life that they don't have energy for their own life. So energy requirement is physical. It's also mental. So that's your thinking, your planning, and then it's also spiritual. All your spiritual connections. When you start spiritually connecting yourself to stuff. So for example, there are a lot of believers right now who are going to become freedom fighters, and they're going to make that their assignment. They're going to think about freedom fighter. I'm going to fight for freedom. All they're thinking, that energy, mental energy, spiritual energy, because now they're entangling with all that stuff. And then their physical energy is going to go into something that might have nothing to do with their season. Do you recognize your season? Where is your energy going right now? And is it going into your season, or is it going into all these things that are not you? Very important to realize and recognize seasons, guys. Okay. Now I could go much deeper on all this stuff, but if you want to go deeper, jump into our coaching program once a week. There are sessions, and there's a whole archive of sessions. A lot of stuff there, but it's designed for doers. If you're someone that needs babysitting, you won't enjoy that. But if you're someone that is looking for your next level up in life, you will enjoy it, because there's every resource you will need to level up your life. Okay. Next, expansion. Right. And so let me quickly say why I use the word expansion. Every believer is called to expand the kingdom. You're expanding the kingdom in the family aspect, where people are coming to God through what you're doing, through discipleship. And if that's not happening in your life, you might need to do a check as to whether you actually seek first the kingdom or not. Because a lot of people like to say they seek first the kingdom, but there is no discipleship going on in their life. You know that they don't seek first the kingdom. You might say, Joseph, that's a bit harsh. I'm just telling you the Bible, right? Jesus clearly defines, if you're walking in the kingdom, your life looks like something. And one of those things is you expand the family of God. And I don't mean you run around evangelizing people to believe what you believe. I'm saying that you make room for them to come into the family. So expansion is in the heart of the kingdom, okay? And that happens via family, and then that also happens via the governmental expansion, right? The governmental expansion of the kingdom. So this happens in your assignments. This happens in the things that you do on the planet. This happens in all the things that God has divinely assigned you, designed you for. That expansion also happens because that is where you go into places and take the kingdom into places where these people are not coming to your church, right? And you start influencing regions instead of regions influencing you. Are you with me? So expansion is at the heart of the kingdom. And so there is a time to dream, a time to build, and a time to dwell in the dream. And let me explain what I mean by that quickly. There is a time where you take time to engage God and you're dreaming. You're asking God, what is it? What are we doing? What have you put in my heart? A lot of people have not taken the time to do that properly, by the way, right? When you're dreaming, you're like an architect. When you're an architect, you're drawing up blueprints. When you're drawing up blueprints, you're not building. Like, you're not building. You don't go on Monday, I'm dreaming. On Tuesday, I'm building. On Wednesday, I come back to dreaming. And on Thursday, I'm building. You don't do that. When you're an architect, you build. You plan. You draw the blueprint, right? You plan it out. You map it out. You're in that phase. And you're in that phase till the drawing is complete. Till the drawing is complete. So there's a time to dream. Some of you, if you don't know your God dream, you need to take some time, right? If you're not influencing regions, if you're not seeing expansion, there is a problem happening here. There is a problem in you recognizing your season. I get people inviting me, oh, come be a part of this. Come join this group. And I look at what they're doing. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What is the vision? They're not able to tell me the vision. Why would I waste my time doing that stuff? Right? If you are someone that's like, I have a heart to change my region, and you're not changing your region, you need to take time to go, man, what is the dream? What is the vision? What is this? God, and take the time to dream. So if you're a doer, you don't like the season because this is the season of you dreaming, writing, drawing, exploring, right, with God. Once you move from the architect season, you come into the builder season. The builder's not a dreamer. We can't start building and lay some foundation and go back to dreaming. No, when you start building, I need to finish what I began, right? This is the phase where you count the cost. Jesus says you will count the cost before you start building. But once you start building, you don't count the cost anymore. You finished that. You finished that. This is like when God invites you into something, you come in there and then you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And then you start re-dreaming. Do you know how many people I've met like that who didn't finish their first project? And they keep re-dreaming. They'll go back. And they just go round and round and round. They're dreaming they're building. They're dreaming they're building. They never dwell. You can't dwell in a house that's not built. You can't dwell in something that's not finished. And so there are people that will dream and start something, dream and start something, dream again and start something. They have hundreds of ideas and they just but they have nothing to dwell in because they don't come into the fullness of real stewardship and governance, right? So learning how to dream, it's dream season, but then it's building season. We don't dream in build season. We don't dwell in build season. We build in build season. And building season takes more work. It's kind of more annoying. It's more challenging in a different way. It takes your energy, right? But understanding there's a time to build and then there is a time to dwell. There's a time to enjoy what was just built, right? In the dwelling phase, you also learn how to improve. You learn how to make something better. You learn how to be more efficient. You learn how to dwell. But if you start dwelling in a house that you barely built because you didn't see the full dream, it's annoying. Imagine being in a house that you built and it has just one wall. Good foundation, but one wall. All right? Or half your roof is leaking, or you're missing windows, whatever it is. Got to learn how to dream in the season of dreaming, build in the season of building, dwell in the season of dwelling, and not mix them up. All right? Expansion. That's the heart of the kingdom. There is always more. There is always growth. God didn't create you to be on this planet just to sit around, to be stagnant. Nothing stays the same. Today, I'm a day older than yesterday, right? Now I'm 30 minutes older than when I started this thing. Nothing stays the same. God designed everything to keep moving, He is the only thing that stays the same yesterday, today, and forever. Are you with me? All right, so what season is it? And we've been talking about this. And one of the ways you can know what season you're in is, where is God breathing? Where do you feel the favor of God right now in your life? Where is He breathing? What does He keep bringing your attention to? What does He keep bringing up in your head, in your spirit, in your heart? What do people keep reminding you of? Suddenly you see number plates. Maybe you're seeing the same colors. Maybe you're seeing the same numbers. Maybe you're seeing the same message over and over and over again. What is God trying to tell you? What season are you in? Where are the doors opening? Where are the doors closing? If God is closing a connection, relationship, a place, your workplace, right? If He's closing a place for you that you were in before, if you keep fighting that, it becomes so frustrating and it usually ends up very painful. What season are you in? What invitations are you getting? What are you getting called into? What are you getting invited into? Right? Very important. What season are you in? Number 2, letting go of control will help you navigate seasons in a way that will be amazing. And usually in the transition, what is revealed is your desire to control. Whenever you're going through a transition, people usually get scared and go backwards because they want to control. And you can't control in a transition. You have no control in a transition. And what happens is people start searching for control in the transition. What can I control? What can I control? And we like to control because we're scared. When you're scared, you need to control. And what are we scared? We're usually scared that God is not a good father like we think. We know it, but we've not experienced it. We don't believe He's as good a father as He really is. We think He's a good father if we are good Christians. We think He's a good father if we do the right things. We think He's a good father if and when we get it right. But the truth is, God is a good father all the time. All the time. And letting go of control is massive. Massive. And most of my clients that I work with don't realize how much control they have till we start telling the truth. This is why you need a coach. People say, oh, life coach, da, da, da. Yeah, well, our group coaching works out to $25 a week, and it can change your life, right? It can radically change your life, but you need a community. You need a person that's willing to speak truth to you in love and help you move and help you see breakthrough and learn how to become a person of breakthrough. A lot of people think breakthroughs come once every year. You can go from breakthrough to breakthrough every day, every week. You don't have to wait months, years for a breakthrough. You don't live from breakthrough to breakthrough every few years. That is not God's abundant life for you. You can have breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough, right? So learning how to flow with it. Who makes your decisions? Who makes your decisions? Now, religion will teach you that you should make decisions with God because that's the right thing to do. And when you're stuck in that right and wrong thing, you don't know how to live life and enjoy life. Doing the right and wrong thing is like walking a tightrope. You are going to fall at some point, and it's going to hurt, right? But if you understand God's good father, and God is the wisest counsel you could ever get on the planet, like, you would make your decisions differently, and learning how to make decisions, taking time to make decisions with God, flowing with it. Super important, right? And then recognizing your season and moving forward. So after everything I've said so far, some of you might realize you're actually stagnant. You're not in transition. Some of you might realize you are in transition, but it's time now to move forward. What does moving forward look like? Some of you might realize you've been hiding from your season. You've been ignoring your season. You've been trying to play like it's summer when it's winter, looking like a fool, running around in your short shorts and your thongs, your jandals, right? Running around in a singlet while it's raining and there's hail. Some of you might have been playing your wrong season. Wrong season. Okay? So what are you going to do now to move forward? Recognizing your season and moving forward. Very, very important. And let me wrap that up here. Whatever season you're in, my prayer is that you'll learn to recognize it, flow with it, move with it, and allow things to be revealed. be revealed. Okay. Nothing wrong with man thongs. Well, some people, thongs are like jandals, right? Like slippers. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, Mikla? Not the thong. All right. Well, let me wrap that up here. Okay. 3 things I always recommend: get a coach, get a mentor. Will accelerate you, save you time, save you hassle, and sometimes will save your life. All right. And I'm not saying that lightly. I have coaches, I have mentors. They've saved my life in many ways, and I've watched people fall into ditches. Just even now, in the last 2 days, I've heard of some of the stories going on with people I've known, and they came into a season, and it was a season of building, but they went into the dreaming, right? Let me give you an example. God could have you in a season of building integrity and building love for yourself, building a relationship within yourself, right? God could have you in a season where you're building self, but then you start dreaming of being in a relationship. And you just went away from building back to dreaming. And I've seen this happen so many times. You got to hear what I'm saying. And this wrecks people's lives. It really does. And people have no idea, right? So they're in the season of building themselves, but they have a dream of being married. It's not the time to dream, but they go and start dreaming. And because they start dreaming, they'll find somebody. So they find a relationship and they start building that relationship, but they never build themselves and they never dwelt with themselves. So when you come into a relationship and you never built yourself, you become everything the relationship wants. That's how you end up becoming toxic or getting toxic partners. That's how you end up getting in relationships you never wanted. You can't now take a broken you, put it into a relationship and have a whole relationship. A broken you means a broken relationship. And a broken relationship means a broken dwelling place. Are you with me? The importance of understanding seasons. You can't take an incomplete Joseph, can't marry a complete Kirsten and have a complete marriage. It's still incomplete because I'm incomplete, right? And I can't have a marriage with my shutdown of half myself. I'm not going to be able to enjoy that marriage like that. And it might feel good temporarily, but it won't feel good long term. So I've seen people fall into this stuff because they don't have a place where they can ask questions, where they can get someone telling them the truth. All right, so get a coach. It's going to save your life. You need a coach. Everybody needs a coach. Okay, the best athletes on the planet have coaches for a reason. Think about this. Why do best athletes in the world have multiple coaches? They're already the best. Or did they become the best and know how to stay the best because they had a coach, right? You gotta go get a coach. I know this is too much for some of you. You don't need to get a coach. Don't get a coach. That's fine. But I reckon everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs a community. You need a community. You need to be around people that think like that, because there are days where you're not going to want to do it and you're going to see other people, and watching them march on is going to help you march on. Join a community, get a community. Last thing, you need to go all in. All in. You can't do this life half-heartedly. If you're going to be the real minority, the ones that walk with God, boom, deny yourself, right? Go all in. Throw yourself all into what God has for you. So let me end with that again. You can check out our group coaching program. It's in the caption. It's called Royal Hybrids. The purpose of that group actually is to help people develop a lifestyle of breakthrough, a lifestyle of leveling up, a lifestyle of knowing who you are, and from who you are, you know how to do what you do. There are a lot of people who know how to do stuff, but they don't know how to do it from their identity. So they burn out. So they pay a price they don't want to pay. They start hurting people and hurting themselves, right? So learning who you are, and from who you are, learning what to do and how to do can change your life. So check that out, Royal Hybrids. I hope you're enjoying the sessions. Let me know in the chat box if you're enjoying these and if I should keep them going. We've done 3 in a row now. I'm happy to do a few more in a row. So let me know. Love you lots. Have a great day. We will talk soon.
Faith and patience. Faith and patience. Patience means allow it to happen. Stay the same. Stay persistent. Keep going. Faith, know that it can happen at any moment. Get excited because it can happen at any moment. You are so close. Don't quit now. Keep pushing. You got this.